Hello, welcome to Tap That MTG, the show where we tell you everything we know about magic. That's probably wrong, but fun to talk about. I'm Shauna.
I'm Leslie.
And she's going to bash my face in because we are talking dinos today.
Dinos.
We are bringing another pre-con deep dive to you. This is from the new Ixalan set that's coming out. And it is Dino Fantastic. We're going to break down the deck, tell you what it is meant to do, and if you stick around to the end, we've got a couple of possible upgrades.
Tweaks.
If you really think you need them.
Tweaks. You might not need any tweaks.
Yes,
This deck is going to be really good out of
exactly.
the box.
So I will let Leslie tell you all about it.
Yes. So this is for everybody that wanted a dinosaur deck that is a commander deck and didn't get one yet. We have a new commander. This one is called Veloci-RAMP-tor. Haha. I'm not sure that there's a ton of ramp in this, but there is some playing things for free, which is where that comes from. So our commander is Pantlaza, the Sun Favored. It is a 5 mana cost commander, so that is pretty expensive if you lose it. A couple times lost, and it's going to be really hard to cast. But when the Sun Favored or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, so any dinosaur, you may discover X, where X is the creature's toughness. Basically what Discover is, it's kind of like Cascade, if you know what Cascade is. You're only going to do this the first time or once each turn. And you're going to exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card, which means anything but a land. So sorceries, count, instants, artifacts, anything like that, that has a mana value of that creature's power or less.
Toughness.
Toughness? Is it toughness?
Toughness.
I thought I just said power. Okay. Yes, creature's toughness. So if it's a 4/4, then 4 is the number that we're going for. If it's a 3/5, then 5 is the number that we're going for, or less. And you get to cast that. And here's the fun thing is without paying its mana cost, or, and this is a great thing about Discover, you can put that into your hand. So that's why it's a little different than Cascade, because if it's that instant that you may not want to play quite yet, you can just put it in your hand for later. Everyone knows that it's there, but that's sometimes a good thing. You don't lose those things though, even though you're putting them into exile. It says put the rest at the bottom in random order. So you do get to put them back in your deck. Basically this deck is all about lots of dinos really fast and getting them for free. You're going to want to be aggressive. You're going to want to overrun your opponents, get in for all that damage before they get a chance to build up their own board states or before they get a chance to cast that board wipe. And hopefully you can protect your dinosaurs in some way or bring them back from the graveyard if they do die. There is a secondary possibility for a commander in this deck. It is Weta, the Trainer Prodigy, for 3, so much lower to the ground. It is a 1/5 with haste. You can pay 3 and tap it, and target creature you control fights another target creature you control. This ability costs 2 less to cast if you target 2 of your own creatures. So basically it's just going to cost a green if you do your own, which is going to come in handy later because there are some things where you want your dinosaurs to take damage.
What?
So if you can have 2 things fight that aren't going to kill each other, but then you get benefits, that is great. So in this deck, this is a great commander.
Benefits.
Friends with benefits. If a creature you control being damaged this way causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control a trigger, that ability also triggers an additional time. So for example, with some of these enrage abilities, I think raging raptors is in there. So you get to, if it takes damage, then you get to go search for a land. That would happen twice. So another solid option for a commander, but we're going to talk about this deck as if Pantlaza is our commander. So Shauna is going to break down this deck a little bit for us and tell us what the guts are all about.
Yeah, so this deck, as you can imagine, does go a little bit high on the mana curve, as to be expected with dinosaurs. So we've got 3 at 1 and 9 at 2, 17 at 3, which is pretty good. And at 4 we have 9, and at 5 we have 10, and at 6 plus we have 13. So a lot of big beasties in there. We've also got the color breakdown for you. So we've got lots of multicolor, 11. We've got 4 colorless, 11 white, 29 green, and only 6 red, and the 39 lands, because we want lots of lands in this deck. But we still do have 41 creatures. Not surprising, because we're all about the stompy dinosaurs. 13 instances and sorceries, only 3 enchantments, and only 4 artifacts. So not a lot of mana rocks in there, but that's okay. And we've, like I said, 39 lands. And yeah, so we're going to talk about a deck building formula that we use to evaluate decks, and I will let Leslie tell you about that.
That's me. So we're going to break this down for you based on a formula that we like to follow when we're building our own decks. It's also fairly close to what Wizards follows, and it just gives us some basis to talk on. So we believe that in a well-balanced commander deck, you should have about 15 ramp, 15 removal, 13 card draw, 12 high impact, those are game-winning cards, 10 that support your overall theme, and then around 35 lands. Of course, either any of those can fluctuate up and down depending on what you want to do with it. And we are going to talk about what first?
Of course, the ramp and mana generators, because without those, we can't get going. And the best one for a dino deck is the Otepec Huntmaster.
Formula.
The formula is 15, and the deck has 16. Yay. So we're starting off with creature ones. So we've got the Otepec Huntmaster. So 1, 2 for 2, and dinosaur spells cost 1 less to cast, and you can tap him and give one of your dinosaurs haste when he comes out.
Yep. Drover of the Mighty is another card that you will find in every single dinosaur deck there ever was. It's +2/+2 as long as you control a dinosaur, and you can then add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, which is actually really great.
And we've got the Adsokan Seer for 2/3 for 1 a green and a white, and it is tap it for any color, 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And you can also sacrifice it and return a dinosaur from your graveyard to your hand, which is really nice later on.
Good. Yeah, if you lose them. A new one in this set is Ixali's Lore Keeper. For 1, it's a 1/1. It just taps for add 1 of any color. Spend this mana only to cast dinosaur spells or activate abilities on dinosaur sources. So only with a dinosaur deck, this is a good one. Otherwise, it would be in every elf deck ever.
Yeah, for sure. Thunderherd Migration, a sorcery for 1 and a green that lets you, as an additional cost to cast a spell, you show off your dino card in your hand, and then you have to search. You can search your library for a basic land card and put it on the battlefield tapped and shuffle.
And Migration Path is a nice little spell that just allows you to go search for 2 basic land cards. You get to put them onto the battlefield tapped and then shuffle, which is actually great. It also has the benefit of cycling, so if you don't need the land anymore, you can discard it and draw a card instead.
Then we have good old Cultivate, which lets you search your library for up to 2 basics, reveal them, and put 1 on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand.
Yeah. And Farseek and Rampant Growth are very similar to that.
Yeah.
They do the same thing. You search for some land and put it onto the battlefield. It usually comes in tapped. I think both cases, yeah, and then you shuffle. So both of those will get you some land.
Yeah, and then we're at our Arcane Signet and Soul Ring that we are very thankful are in every one of these commander decks. The Arcane Signet, of course, taps for 1 mana of any color, and your commander's color identity, and Soul Ring is for 2 colorless, which is great to have.
And we have another new one, a Progenitor's Icon. When it enters the battlefield, you get to choose a creature type. You're going to choose dinosaurs. Then you can add 1 mana of any color, and then you can also tap it, and the next spell of the chosen type that you cast this turn can be cast as though it had flash. So you can get your dinosaurs out with flash if you tap it.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Then we've got some big dinosaurs that help us in the mana ramp department. The Regal Behemoth. It is a 5/5 for 6 with trample. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And whenever you tap a land for mana while you are the monarch, add an additional 1 mana of any color. Wowzer, wow.
Double the land.
Yeah.
I love this card, Topiary Stomper. For 3, it's a 4/4, which already, like when you're talking about cards being on par mana-wise, you usually play 3 for a 3/3, 4 for a 4/4, 2 for a 2/2. This is 3 for a 4/4. Already really good. It has vigilance. Amazing. Also, when it enters the battlefield, you get to search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. And it can't attack. The only downfall is that it can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands. That's going to be really easy to get. So as cards go, this is a really good card.
Yeah. And then the Wayward Swordtooth, this is why that other card is a really good card, because this one ended up being a really good card, a 5/5 for 3. That has Ascend. So Ascend is you have to have 10 or more permanents on the battlefield, and then you get what's called the City's Blessing. And so when you have the City's Blessing, you have Ascend, and you may play an additional land on each of your turns. So there's that Swordtooth helping you out there. And he can't attack or block unless you have City's Blessing. So the lands will count towards your Ascend, so you're going to have no problems at all. Suddenly you've got a big 5/5 for 3.
Yeah. And then we have an Enraged dinosaur. So Enrage, I love Enrage. I have a Pioneer deck that's all about the enraging dinosaurs. And this one is one that benefits from taking damage. So Ranging Raptors is 3 for a 2/3. Whenever Ranging Raptors is dealt damage, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So if there's a way that you can do damage to it yourself, but not kill it, then that's good. And you can also just keep it and use it as a blocker for those little guys. They might not want to attack because they don't want to give you land.
Makes me back off, that's for sure, when she's done that. So
she never wants to give me anything nice.
No, I never want to give her anything nice. Then we've got the card draw section, and the formula calls for 13. The deck has 7, but as you could see from the ramp section, maybe there's ways to get more cards out, and your commander might have some other things to do there. But the first one that we love to play in a green deck is Rishikar's Expertise. It is a sorcery for 6 mana that says, draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Wow, that's a lot in a dino deck. And you may cast a spell with mana value 5 or less from your hand without paying for it. Sweet.
And Crafter's Bestiary is an ongoing card draw, so that's good. And I love that this one gets you a scry. So on your upkeep, you get to scry. No extra cost. Don't have to have a special creature out on the battlefield. It only costs 3. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you can pay 1 forest and draw a card. So hopefully you can get that out early so you can keep drawing.
Return of the Wildspeaker. This is a instant for 4 and a green. That's really useful for many reasons. It has draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Lots of dinos there. Or you can go non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. So it's either a game winner or a getting you back in the game card.
Veloci-RAMP-tor has Enrage as well. Whenever it is dealt damage, you get to draw a card. So a little bit of a benefit there.
Runic Armasaur. It is a friendly little dinosaur that says whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you get to draw a card. So sure, do whatever you want.
Well, and if we look at Runic Dinosaur and Ripjaw-Raptor, and then we think about the alternative commander, you're activating her ability to allow you to make them fight. They're not going to kill each other because they both have big butts. And so you're going to get a land out of it from and drawing a card, and then you're also going to be able to draw a card from
opponents, though.
Right. Yeah. But you're also going to get to do the Ripjaw-Raptor. So those will be 2 that would be good examples of ones that you want to fight each other because they're not going to kill each other. Yeah,
definitely. Here's another big butt one. Curious Altosaur. It's a new card that has Vigilance and Reach, a 2/5 for 4. Whenever a dinosaur you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. Tramply dinosaurs doing damage. Sure.
And another new one, Earthshaker Dreadmaw for 6. It's a 6/6. It's on par. We talked about that. It's trample. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to draw a card for each other dinosaur you control. So you can hopefully fill up your hand, play this guy when you have hardly any cards left in your hand, and just draw a full hand again.
He's awesome. Then we're into the removal section. So the formula calls for 15, and the deck has about 15. There's some fun removal in this deck. One of the fun ones is this Dinosaur Thrashing Brontodon, a 3/4 for 3. And you can pay 1 and sacrifice this big boy and destroy target artifact or enchantment.
And Savage Stomp is dinos just like to fight each other.
Yep.
Cost 2 less if you cast cost 2 less to cast if it targets a dinosaur you control. So you get to put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, and then that creature fights target creature you don't control. So it's gonna be 2 less to cast. So really it only costs 1.
Then a generous gift. Leslie loves this card. It's a instant for 3 that says destroy a target permanent. Its controller makes a nice little green elephant creature token.
I just love giving gifts. Path to Exile for 1. Exile target creature. Its controller gets to search for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle, but you just got rid of something for 1, and it's exile, which is great.
Yeah. Then Chandra's Ignition. It is a sorcery for 3 and 2 red. It's a target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. Ouch. That's a lot of damage.
Especially seen as, well, you'll see the big dinosaurs. So hopefully you target one of your big guys. I'm not sure which is the biggest. We'll see.
It's not fight, it deals damage.
It deals damage, exactly. Fiery Confluence, and we didn't talk about putting removal in that's just dealing damage, because that would be better than fighting. Anyway, Fiery Confluence for 4. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. So if you want to do Fiery Confluence deals 1 damage to each creature 3 different times, that's 3 creatures. The nice thing about that is that would be your creatures too, which would then cause them to enrage, which would cause them to trigger. Fiery Confluence does 2 damage to each opponent. You could do that 3 times and do 6 damage to each opponent, or you could destroy target artifact, and you could do any combination of those.
Awakening Sun's Avatar, this big 7/7 for 8. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, destroy all non-dinosaur creatures. Board wipe just for you.
Board wipe just for you. So Marauding Raptor, I love this card. I hate to play against it just because it's so good. Creature spells that you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's going to help you with your ramp, so it could go in that section as well. But whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to it. If it's a dinosaur that's dealt damage this way, Marauding Raptor gets +2 until the end of turn. So again, it's going to take advantage of your enrage abilities. It's going to make your dude much bigger, and it's going to cost less. So there is some ability to use your enrage triggers to fight or remove other people's things.
Raging Swordtooth, it's a 5/5 for 5. It has trample. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each other creature. So there's your enrage trigger again with that big guy when he comes out.
And hopefully killing all the little 1/1 vampires or all the little 1/1 zombies or merfolk or whatever. Apex Altasaur for 7 and 2. That's 8, 9. I can do maths. 9, it's a 10/10. So here's our big beefy dude right now. Biggest one so far. When it enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Easy peasy. It also has enrage, so that enrage trigger is going to go off. And whenever it's dealt damage, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So then it's going to fight again, and it's going to fight again, and it's going to fight again until it's dead, but it's going to take a whole bunch of stuff out with it.
Death Gorge Scavenger, it's a 3/2 for 3. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may exile target card from a graveyard. If a creature card is exiled this way, you gain 2 life. If a non-creature card is exiled this way, he gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Get rid of something out of their graveyard if you want.
And Bronzebeak Forager is a new card. I love the artwork of the new dinosaurs. They have feathers in a lot of cases. It's interesting because I saw a video that Magic put out, and they showed all of their dinosaur art to a paleontologist to get their opinion, and he was impressed with it. So anyway, I digress. When Bronzebeak Forager enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to one target non-land permanent that player controls until Bronzebeak Forager leaves the battlefield. So you're going to get rid of some people's things, but then it has this fun ability that is X and white, and you can put a target card with a mana value of X exiled with Bronzebeak Forager into its owner's graveyard. You gain X life. So it's a way of maybe a little bit later, you don't want them to get that back. Or you can do that at instant speed when they decide to kill it. You'd be like, oh, that's okay. This is going to go to your graveyard first, and you're going to gain life off of it.
There is another new card called Wrathful Raptors. It is a 5/5 for 4 and a red. It has trample as well. Whenever a dinosaur you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dinosaur. OMG. That's crazy. That's, yeah. It's not a fight, it deals the damage.
Yeah, so if it takes 3 damage because it blocked, then it's going to do 3 damage to something.
Yeah.
And it's already doing 5. So people are going to think twice.
Yeah.
And it's any dinosaur you control.
Yeah.
That's should be in high impact, but it's really removal.
Yeah.
Sign of Calamity, 5 for 5/5. It has Myriad. And then when Sign of Calamity deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. And we looked up Myriad the other day. I can't remember. It's escaping me.
It's where you make a copy of that card and
Right.
they attack the other players in the game if you like.
Yeah. So when it attacks, you can be like, my opponents are getting copies also going at them. And then, yes, you're going to get the same benefit.
And then this little guy, it's Quinth, firstborn of Gishath.
Oh,
little baby. 2/3 reminds me of Jurassic Park there, but that's okay. 2/3 for 2, a red and a green. It has haste, and when this little guy enters the battlefield, you may pay 2, and when you do, target dinosaur you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. So it comes out and its mama goes.
yeah, pretty much. Now we're moving on. If those weren't high impact enough for you, we're moving into the high impact section. As you can see, some of those will also fit into this category. The formula calls for around 12, and we see that this deck has, well, identified 10
or the
plus. The first one is Xenagos, God of Revels. Not a dinosaur, but kind of a disgusting god. For 3 and a red and a green, you get a 6/5 indestructible god. As long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, he isn't a creature, but that will go up as soon as your pips go up, no problem. At the beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature you control gains haste and gets +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is that creature's power. It does not matter if Xenagos is a creature for that ability to trigger. It's just gonna, as soon as he's on the battlefield for 5, your things are gonna gain haste and double their power and toughness and become crazy, especially if they have trample. And let's talk about the next one, because what happens when that happens?
People cry when Zakama Primal Calamity comes out. Costs a lot, but you get it out and that's game over pretty much. So for 6, a red, green, and white, it's a 9/9 with vigilance, reach, and trample. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you get to untap all your lands. So basically you played him for free. And then you can use his abilities that 2 in a red, you can deal 3 damage to target creature, or 2 in the white, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or sorry, 2 in a green to do that, and 2 in a white is you gain 3 life. So you got that mana back again to do all those things again.
And if you have your commander out, then you're going to be able to discover with him for something that costs 9 or less. So you're going to get another big thing on the battlefield. Like maybe this guy, Rampaging Brontoton for 7. He's at 7/7 with trample. And when Rampaging Brontoton attacks, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn for each land you control.
What? Zatulpa, this is one of my son's favorite cards. Primal Dawn, it's a 4/8 for 6 and 2 whites. Flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, indestructible. Dinosaur that just keeps on hitting.
Crazy.
Stupid.
4/8. An Itali Primal Storm. I love this guy because he steals things. So for 6, he's a 6/6, and when he attacks, you get to exile the top card of each player's library, including your own. Then you can cast any number of those spells for free. So you just get some free stuff from other people's decks, which is great. It is cast, so land doesn't count.
Right. Descendant's Path for 2 and a green. It's an enchantment that says beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost.
Just at the beginning of your upkeep card.
Otherwise, you can put that card in the bottom of your library. Just dig through till we find a nice dinosaur on the top of it.
So it's essentially a scry that gets you a free thing because you can then just put it on the bottom and draw something else instead.
Yep.
Because it's before your draw.
Beginning of your upkeep, yep.
Craziness.
Untap, upkeep, draw. Remember that.
The order. Important. Yep. Chroma's Will for 4. It's an instant. You can choose one. If you control your commander, you can cast the spell. You can choose both. Creatures you control gain flying, vigilance, double strike until the end of turn, or creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible, protection from all colors until the end of turn. So this is potentially a game-winning card. If you have a whole bunch of dinosaurs, it's going to turn the tide. It is a little bit conditional, so maybe it should go in the support cards, but it is really high impact most of the time when it's played.
Yeah. Quartzwood Crasher. It's a 6/6 for 5. I love this guy. It's got trample, and whenever one or more creatures you control with trample deal combat damage to a player, create X green dinosaur beast creature tokens with trample, where X is the number of, or the amount of damage those creatures dealt to the player. So all of a sudden you've got a whole bunch of little tramply baby dinos.
Yeah.
That often are pretty big.
Yeah.
They just make more because they have trample too.
Especially since Rogue's Passage is in this.
Yeah.
Verdant Avatar for 7 is a 5/5. So when it or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So you're just going to keep gaining life. This is the worst dinosaur goose that was ever invented.
Yeah. Weta, Trainer Prodigy. We already talked about her. But yeah, there's you saw these creatures with big toughness, so that might be something that you want to take advantage of. Try it out. Why not?
And she's only got one, and she's got a big butt, so you could use her to fight as well.
Yeah.
So now we're on to our support cards. These are cards that support your overall win condition or have other win cons attached to them. We suggest that you have 10. This deck has 12, which is great. Kinjali Sunwing is a 3 mana cost, 2/3 with flying, and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, stopping them from having haste.
Shoot. Then we have Regisar Alpha, which is a 4/4 for 5. Other dinosaurs you control have haste. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to create a little 3/3 dinosaur creature token. What's wrong?
A little help. A Rhythm of the Wild is great for any creature deck that is Gruul colored. So 1 and a green and a red, you get creature spells you control can't be countered. And non-token creatures you control have Riot, which means you get a choice when they come into the battlefield. You can either put a 1/1 counter on it or give it haste. You only get that choice once when it comes in. But
then we have From the Rubble, which is a new enchantment that says it's when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, so dinosaurs. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature card of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. What? And finality counters are, if it dies, it doesn't go to your graveyard, it goes to exile. So it just wouldn't be so overpowered, but
I mean,
it still comes back for free.
Your dinosaur was dead anyway, so you thought you couldn't play it again until you get this. So that's fantastic. Temple Altasaur for 5 is a 3/4, and if a source would deal damage to another dinosaur you control, prevent all but one of that damage. So now all of your dinosaurs can only take 1 damage, which again helps so much with that enrage abilities. because they just can't kill your stuff.
Yep, they can just take a hit and keep on kicking.
Yeah, they have to have different sources deal damage to it for it to actually do anything.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get your enraged
Still,
that many times.
Shifting Ceratops is 5/4, good little guy for 2 and 2 green that can't be countered, which is really nice against those blue decks. And it also has protection from blue, period. So they can't block. They can't do anything with their blue stuff to this guy. And you can pay green to give it a choice of reach, trample, or haste until end of turn. You can pay more green to do all of them if you like. He's a good guy.
He is. I have my green stompy deck. Bellowing Aegisaur.
Yeah.
Aegisaur. We'll say that. For 6, it's a 3/5. It has Enrage. And whenever Bellowing Aegisaur is dealt damage, you get to put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. Let's make them all big now.
Majestic Heliopterus for 2/2. It's a flying dinosaur. When it attacks another target dinosaur you control, gains flying until end of turn. Uh-oh.
Flying dinos.
Flying dinos.
We call those dragons.
That's right.
I think that dinosaurs were just dragons. We just, anyways, I digress. Again, Thundering Spineback 4/7 is a 5/5. Other dinosaurs you control get +1/+1, and you can pay 6 and create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample.
Makes its own little herd. Raging Regisaur 4/4 for 4. Whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Pick one. Pick something of your own if you need to, whatever.
And a new one we have is Dinosaur Egg for 2, and it has Evolve. So whenever a dinosaur egg dies, then you may discover X, where X is its toughness. So it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And Evolve means that whenever somebody casts a spell, you get to put a counter on it, right?
It's whenever you cast something that has a bigger power.
Right.
It
when
gets
you
a counter.
cast something that's bigger than it, then it gets a counter.
Yeah. Which you can do quite a few times in this deck.
Starts out at a 0/3. So, yeah.
And then Sunfrail Imitator. It's a new card as well. Little 3/3 dino for 3. Whenever it attacks, you may have it become a copy of another target dinosaur you control, except its name is this guy.
Just rename things. It's fine. So now we're on to our land section. There are 34 lands in this deck.
39.
Or we suggest 34 lands in this deck. There are 39 lands though. So there's a lot of land. As you saw, you have some pretty high mana costs, so that might be needed. We always suggest playing with it before tearing it apart and doing different things with it. But there's a few things of note that we wanted to talk about. So Arch of Orazca lets you draw a card and activate the ability only if you have the city's blessing. Rogue's Passage, of course, lets you turn something into an unblockable beastie. And then Unclaimed Territory allows you to choose dinosaurs and then cast mana of any type. There wasn't a lot of extra. There's dual lands and stuff in here, but those are the only ones that have abilities that you might want to remember.
Unclaimed Territory is in all the decks, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Then we're going back to that original formula and comparing. Leslie's got a little graph here that compares the original formula to the numbers that we have just talked about. And as you can see, this deck is pretty much exactly on par, which makes a lot of sense because that's kind of what we use to build decks.
It's a little low on card draw, but I mean, you're going to be playing stuff for free, so hopefully that makes up for it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what are we doing now?
Tweaks.
Woohoo!
You get to start.
I get to start tweaks. Yay! So we've got the Ravenous Tyrannosaurus. This is from the Jurassic Park set that is coming out as a secret lair. So if you can get your hands on this guy, it is a 6/6 big T-Rex for 6, and it has Devour 3. As it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with 3. Is it 3 times, Leslie?
Devour 3, yeah.
Devour with 3 times that many +1 counters on it for each of those creatures. What?
So as it enters,
Oh my God,
you get to sacrifice any number of creatures. So basically, he's eating those creatures.
Right. All right.
And then he's using those creatures to buff himself up. So
Nice.
he enters the battlefield with 3 times that many 1/1 counters for each of those creatures. So
he's going to eat the Albertosaurus, who's
Yeah.
giant. And when it attacks, it deals damage equal to its power to up to 1 other target creature. Excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead.
yeah, trample damage. It's great.
So mean.
I absolutely think everyone must have a Polyraptor in this deck. It is a really good dinosaur card for any enraged deck, and it just goes crazy sometimes. Polyraptor. You know what we did put in here is the Forerunner. The dinosaur Forerunner,
right?
Because that one also does damage to everything as it enters, which then creates that ongoing cycle. So you need that as well. It's up on the screen.
Red.
I can't remember
Forerunner
of the something or other. It's on the screen.
Yeah,
Watch the
it's
screen.
red.
Anyways, I definitely highly recommend putting this in. Anyways, it is a 7/8 mana cost, 5/5, and whenever it's dealt damage, you get to create a token that's a copy of it. So then you have 2 Polyraptors, and when they take damage, then you'll have 4 Polyraptors, and etc. 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 It is so great when you can have tokens. 30 Polyraptors on the battlefield. It's the Needletooth will help with that, but we'll get to that in a second.
So let Leslie talk about her.
Okay.
No, you talk about your
Needletooth Raptor. This one is another one that is a good enrage ability that I recommend putting in this deck. It's just a 2/2, so it can't take very much damage, but whenever it does take damage, you can do 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls, which is nothing to laugh at.
Nope. And then I like this little guy, Overgrown Armosaur. His enrage ability is you get to make a little sapperling token. I like sapperlings.
Yeah, I do too. Nice, just get some little blockers, right?
Save you. Yeah.
Silverclad Ferocidon for 7 is an 8/5. He also has Enrage, and when he's dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. So
mean.
It is.
Trapjaw Tyrant. This one is a 5/5 for 3 and 2 white. It has Enrage, of course. Whenever it is dealt damage, you exile target creature and opponent controls until Trapjaw leaves the battlefield. Traps everything.
And Bone Horde Dracosaur. Did we not say that dinosaurs with wings are just dragons? This is a dinosaur dragon that's a 5/5. It's got flying and first strike. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you exile up to 2 cards from your library. You may play them this turn. If you exile a land card this way, you create a 3/1 red dinosaur creature token. And if you exile a non-land card this way, you create a treasure token. So, top 2 cards.
Ancient Imperosaur. It's a 6/6 for 7. Yes, 5, 6, 7. It has Convoke, so your creatures can help you pay for this guy, so you can use your little sapperlings for the green if you like, or whatever you got out there, little guys, to help you play this card. And it has Trample and Ward 2. So Ward 2 means that they have to pay 2 extra to target this guy.
And there's another Atali out there, so we thought that might be a good addition to this. Atali Primal Conqueror for 5 and 2 red. It is a 7/7 with Trample. And when it enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among them exiled cards this way without paying their mana cost, similar to the Atali. And then he has 9 and a green Phyrexian mana to transform him. Phyrexian mana just means that you can pay 2 life instead of paying the green. You can activate this only as a sorcery, and then you're going to flip him over. And when you flip him over, he is now an 11/11 with Trample and Indestructible. When he deals combat damage to a player, they get that many poison counters. And he is an 11/11. So if you can do Rogue's Passage, people can only have 10 and they're dead. So nice little extra win con if you want to have him, and he's fun and he's a dinosaur.
We've got Galta Stampede Tyrant, a 12/12. In the new set here for 5 and 3 green. It has Trample, and when it enters the battlefield, put any number of creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Enough said.
Yeah.
That's just
An older one, the Tarask for 6 and 3 green is a 10/10. So 9 for a 10/10 is pretty good. It has haste and ward 10, so it costs 10 extra mana to just target it as long as it was cast. Not for free, like some of these are free. And when the Tarask attacks, it fights target creature defending player controls.
casting it for free is still casting it.
Right, it doesn't say as long as
it
it was cast
it's whether
from
the
your
card
hand.
says put it on the battlefield.
It's whether
or
it says
cast it for
play
free.
it without paying its mana cost or cast it without playing its mana
all in
cost.
the wording.
It's all in the wording. Read the words matter.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good. I'm glad. Anyways, when it attacks, you get to fight a target creature defending player control. So you could potentially just have it fight something that it might be using as a blocker before it then continues on and does damage.
Yeah. So then the other thing we were thinking with this deck is you've got a lot of creatures out there that don't necessarily have very much protection. There's a couple indestructible things, as you know, but we thought we'd throw in a couple possible upgrades for that. Heroic Intervention, of course, is one of the best ones for that. It's the green one. And permanent you control, gain hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. And
Go ahead.
Teferi's Protection is the white version kind of that. Until your end of turn, your life total can't change and you gain protection from everything, and all permanents you control phase out. So they disappear off of the battlefield, but they don't lose counters or anything. They just pretend they're not there. And yeah.
Yep. And then Ascend from Avernus is another one that might be good for this. 3 white and X, return all creatures and planeswalker cards with a mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Exile Ascend from Avernus. So it only happens once, but if at the end of the game someone's done that board wipe and you can't get all of those dinosaurs back, it might be worth putting all your mana, because you have so much of it and you've ramped up. Just pay as much as you can and get all of the stuff back out of your graveyard and onto the battlefield. So
it's a surprise. Then there's also the Invasion of Ikoria that we thought might be kind of fun to put in there. It is a battle from the, oh gosh, what is the name of that set? Anyway, it's a battle. So a battle is a different kind of permanent that sits out. You play it and it goes on to the opponent's
March of the Machines
side. March of the Machines. Thank you. It goes on the opponent's side, whichever opponent you want, and they have to defend it. Well, they should defend it. And so this one says, when it enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature card, and with mana cost or mana value X or less, and put it on the battlefield. If you search the library this way, shuffle, of course. So yeah, so that is as it enters the battlefield, and then you try to deal 6 damage to it, and then it becomes the big Zolortha, Apex of Ikoria. It becomes a dinosaur, an 8/8 dinosaur with reach, and for each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Suddenly a little bit of a game winner there. So they'll want to defend that.
Yeah, exactly. They don't
sure.
want to give you your 8/8.
They don't want it.
So give it to someone that can't defend very well or doesn't want to lose their creatures.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for watching. We love to talk with you guys, so feel free to connect on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Tell us how Instagram. We'd love to hear how you would tweak this deck, so please let us know if you have any suggestions or would like to do a few things differently. That's it for this time, so we will see you next time. And in the meantime,
Tap those magic cards and have fun doing it.
bye guys.
Bye everyone.